Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be tackling the 17th hole here at the Country Club at Pocatello. And my plan with it is a very interesting design that I've always wanted to try on a short par 3, so we're going to be giving that a go in today's episode. Now, this is actually the second to last hole on this entire golf course. We have this hole, the short par 3 17, and we have a longer hole, number 12 over here, a longer par 3, so 2 par 3s left. And while there are still plenty of edits that I want to make to this golf course, we have a lot of work left. We are getting tantalizingly close to finishing this place off, and I couldn't be more excited for that. Now, this hole in 2K21 was absolutely stunning. It had the sun out in the distance, and it was shining over that body of water. Unfortunately, in 2K23, the lighting mechanics just aren't the same, so we lose a lot of that just lighting beauty that we had from PGA 2K21. So I'm a little disappointed that we're not going to get that lighting, but I still think we can make this hole look fantastic, and hopefully it will play fantastic as well. So this is actually the 26th episode of my design series here at Pocatello, which is crazy thinking back on all the old episodes that I've made. But if you've enjoyed the series up to this point, please consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it, and it'd help me out a bunch. So with all that being said, let's get right into the design. So the plan for this par 3 that we have here, it's only, as you can see, it's only 147 yards to the center point of the green. And I made this little green area just to mark out where I wanted the green to go, but I think it's going to be a little bit different of a shape than that. I kind of want an L shape on this par 3. So it's going to be a pretty narrow front section that wraps around in here, and then I want this little section sticking out as well so that we have this pin location over here on the right. And where I want this hole to differentiate from a lot of par 3s is I want it to slope from back to front. And I think, I'm sorry, not from back to front, the other way, front to back. I want it to be sloping towards the water, going away from the player off the tee. And I think it's an interesting design concept, especially on a short par 3, because you're going to be having a wedge in your hand. It's only 145 yards from all the way back here, which are going to be the furthest tees that you can play. So it's a very short hole, but I want it to be, you have to be very precise with your wedges and your wedge distance. And also, sorry, these cursors are driving me insane. I want to be able to challenge the player even though they have a wedge in their hand. So that's the goal with this hole, is to make a pretty narrow green from side to side, probably not much wider than the area that I have here, just extend it a little bit further and making it into more of an L shape. And the plan is to surround this with a bunker. I don't think I want this hole to be directly on the water. I've had enough greens that are directly on the water, and I feel I would have to build a retaining wall, which would just eat more into my object meter anyway. And I don't think that this hole needs a retaining wall. I think we can make it look really good when it's surrounded by just kind of a thin strip of bunker, especially on this backside here, wrapping around where the green is going to go, and then have the water come up to that bunker, kind of like we have over here. And I think we can make a par 3 that is going to look stunning and hopefully play pretty difficult, even though it's only 145 yards to this pin. So without any further ado, I'm going to step in here and I am going to start placing down this green surface here and also some of the surrounding areas where the bunkers are going to go. And we're going to get this thing pretty much ready to go for planting after all these surfaces go down. These par 3s, they can be designed pretty quickly, especially I don't have any fairways to place and I don't really have any greenside bunkers. Really, the greenside bunkers are just going to be the waste bunkers. I'm going to extend these waste bunkers down and it's going to basically surround this entire green. So it will be an island green just surrounded by bunkers instead of water. So without any further ado, let's get in there, let's place this green down, and let's get this green looking a little bit more like we want the finished product to look. So here we go, let's get into it. Alrighty, we have made it through all of the surface placing and we have every big piece of the puzzle in place. Now it's just going back through and getting all the detail work in with a lot of the planting, and we've got a lot of it left on this hole, particularly with this back section extending all of this grassy seaweed area behind the green, and then also a lot of this hill here. We've got to cover up some of this big slope that we've got in this bunker, but we'll be able to do that no problem. I'm not too worried. But I wanted to go through and talk a little bit about the course strategy here that we have on this 17th hole, and I'm really happy with the way this hole is going to play. I think that especially in 2K23 with the greens being very slick and the ball being able to get away from you very easily, I think this hole is going to play really well. So I think what you might notice is that a lot of the new holes that I'm going to design here, and maybe some of the edits I make to some of my previous holes, they are definitely going to be tailored to the ball physics of PGA 2K23, and there's probably going to be some changes coming up, and I'm going to be designing a lot more for that, just with in mind how the game plays currently. So let's take a look at this green here, because we have basically a three-tiered green here. Let me get these cursors off. We basically have a three-tiered green, and we have this front section, and like I said, we have this green sloping away. So any ball that's going to land on this front section is going to be kicking forward and potentially catching this hill here, and this hill basically sends every ball down to this fringe. And it's just something there to, you have to be very precise with your distances with your wedges. That's what this hole is going to test, is how well can you control the distance on a wedge shot. And if you don't control it and it either comes out a little too low with a bit too much skip, or you don't hit it solidly and it doesn't have enough spin on it, the ball is just going to run down and it's going to catch this slope and it's going to come down into here, or it's going to stay on the right side of this tier and it's actually going to roll down to this back right section, which would be a really difficult putt up to either of these pins 1 and 4 up on this top section. Now, like I pointed out, we have this little punch bowl effect here, which is going to catch a lot of shots because the second pin is on this, it's pin number 2, and it's on a little tier of its own. And I think that this pin is actually probably the toughest on the green. This section is really small back here, and I really like the way that it plays, because it's only 130, 140 yards to it, but if you catch this front bowl, you're just going to get down into here, and you're basically going to have to accept par, and if you miss it right, it's getting all the way down here, and then all of a sudden you're struggling to 2-putt. So I love this pin back here, and then I think this is a super fun pin over here in the corner, and you don't have a good angle at it, especially from this tee box back here. You've got this whole front bunker lurking down here, where if you get it down to here, it's going to be really tough to get that up and down. And then also you can roll off the back here. It's just sticking out enough to where it's awkward. So you want to be using this slope here, but you also don't want to miss it over here. Otherwise, you're just going to have a really downhill sliding putt to this back right section of the green. So yeah, that basically covers the course strategy. It's a simple par 3, but I think the design of it is really good, especially for the length of the hole being only inside of 150 yards. I think that this hole is really going to be a good challenge despite being a shorter par 3. So let's get into a couple other things that I did. I wanted to point out this area right here, this peninsula, and I'm going for a little bit of a cheat here because I really want to block this sightline. I don't want to have to plant anything. This is the edge of the course here. I don't want to have to plant anything behind this. And so what we're going to do is I'm just going to extend this little peninsula out here, and I'm going to cover it with big bushes where you can't see past them. And then I'm just going to say basically, well, nothing past this is our course, so we don't need to plant it. That's pretty much what I'm going for. I want to save as much meter as I can, so I'm doing a little bit of a cheat over here. I still want this water to come in on this right side for the really bad shots that actually miss all the way over to here, though I don't even know if that's possible in this game, especially with having only a wedge in your hand. But I still want this water to be here, so that's the reasoning and the logic for this peninsula. The other thing that I did is I actually added another tee box to 18. And it's gonna act as a bit of a dummy tee box, and the reason why is I felt that the distance between this green and this tee box, it was just a little bit too long, and I didn't want to add in the ocean. And as I'm thinking about it here, maybe I could have, but I felt this was just as good of an option because it really, I think it connects the two holes a little bit better, and I like to have that continuity where you can see the next tee box from the green and the flow of the course makes sense. So I felt that if you had this land here, and they would want to build a tee box here, even though I think this hole would not play very well because it would basically take driver out of your hand from 355 yards to the green, but you can hit driver from up here and try and cover the water. So I felt on this 18th hole that there would be a dummy tee box that maybe they would use occasionally, but I don't want to use it for people playing this course. So it's just kind of a connector between the green and the tee box of hole number 18. And yeah, I kept running into this issue as I was designing this hole. Check out this bunker. And how frustrating is it that I can't get these edges to be smooth? And I was really, really frustrated as I was doing this. I actually did a bunch of progress on this hole and then realized that the bunker wasn't straight, and I actually just deleted all of the footage and didn't save and went back and tried to do it again to see if I could get it, and I can't seem to get it. So I think it's a PGA 2K23 thing. It's a really frustrating bug. And there's so many other bugs going on in the game right now that it's not going to be at the top of the list. But as you can see, so see how wavy some of these lines are? Let's go over here to number 1, and you follow along the coastline here and look at how smooth a lot of this coastline is. And ooh, there's an area I forgot to plant. See, we're going to have a lot of edits coming up. But you see how smooth these edges are? They really look good. And then I can't seem to get it over here. So it's something with 2K23. I decided, you know what, it's just going to look the way it is, and I just have to accept it because I was getting really frustrated without being able to get this smooth edge going back here. But that pretty much covers everything that I've done. I've obviously added a ton of sand here, but we are going to cover that all up with planting. That is not going to be looking nearly as flat and beachy as it does right now, but we will get there in a little bit because right now I want to focus on this right side of the hole and this brush work that we're going to do underneath here. I want to block out all of the sight lines that are leading off of this hole that go out towards the edge of the course here. So I'm going to go in there, I'm going to place a lot of the brush like we did over here on 16, and I am going to cover up all this area, and we're going to see how much object meter we have left to plant the rest of this hole, because this is going to be this is probably the most plant intensive thing that I have left to do because of having to extend this coastline planting that I've had all the way down the edge of this course. So with that in mind, let's hop in there and let's start planting this brush area so that we can get ready to finish off hole number 17 with some beautiful planting up on the sides of these dunes here. So let's get after it and let's get planting. We got in all of the brush here, and you can see that we've blocked the sightline completely, and I don't think we've used many objects either. I really decided that I was just going to block out everything, and I basically just expanded some big bushes as you saw in that time lapse, and I think it does a really good job of blocking the sights. And once we have more stuff to look at down here with a lot of the nicer planting that I can do in this area, I think that this is just going to blend into the background, and that's really all we wanted to do. We don't need it to look amazing. We just need it to blend in and make sure that everybody's eyes are focused on what we want them to look at rather than what we don't want them to look at, which is this area back here, which I don't want to plant. I don't want to waste any planting meter over here, so that's why we have just made these giant big blocking bushes. So now that we've got that done, let's hop in there and let's start doing this coastline here, and this is really going to tell us how much plant meter that PGA 2K23 uses compared to 2K21, and I'm interested to see where we end up after we extend it, we don't have that far to go. We really only have from here, and we have to obviously plant in here as well, and then also in here, but we really only have 125 yards, which in the grand scheme of having planted all the way down to here, which is over 1,800 yards, or just around 1,800 yards, I think it is going to be interesting to see how much plant meter we use. So let's just crack on with it. Let's go ahead and let's get this planting done here, and let's see what we're left with once we're done with it. And there we have it. We have finished the coastline planting here, and I think it looks really good. I like the little bit of mixed colors and textures that we have through here, and this definitely looks more like a swamp than maybe any of the other areas that I've placed. Some of them just have a lot of this seagrass here, which in this game just has not turned out the way it did in 2K21. But when you go over here, you can look at it, and I love all the different colors we have in here, and I haven't overused that plant, so I think it blends really well instead of kind of being the only type of color I have. So I don't know that I'm going to change anywhere else on the course that I've made, but this area in particular I think has turned out really nice. So I love the way the planting has come through. A couple things I wanted to mention though, one of them being, I don't know if you saw in the time lapse, all the blue lines, I think the blue lines, I can't even remember now in 2K21 what it used to look like, but it was never that disruptive while you were trying to plant. When you were trying to plant, it would just kind of blend into the background, but now they have these light blue, like if you click on it, let's click on something, you see how this blue comes up. It's hard to see when you're planting all this stuff. So you go through these giant areas where you have all these plants and you're trying to figure out how it's going to blend in with the rest of the bushes around it. It's really difficult to see, and I wish it would go back to what it was because I don't remember this ever being an issue. And the fact that I don't even remember what color it was in the other game, I think really goes to show just how disruptive that it is because I never even noticed it. And this is just, it's tough to plant with. The other thing I really don't like is the clear surfaces, surface, and you actually get a giant wave like this right here. It has a clear terrain thing around it, and I don't like it at all. I don't know why it needs to be there. I wish there could be some kind of workaround in this game to figure out, you could just clear the terrain from all the naturally generated objects, and call it a day, instead of having to see these giant yellow splotches. And then as I was copying all of these plants through here, you could see I couldn't see anything as I was going through with the plantings. So I wish there was a better workaround for that, but hopefully they'll do something about it. But I seriously doubt it. There's a lot of other bugs going on in the game right now, which brings me to my next point, something that I recently found out. You know what? Maybe it's time. I don't like only these 4 pins. These 4 pins, they're kind of boring. I'd like to have different pins. So I'm going to delete this pin for now. I just want to try something out. Yeah, so I go into here. I'm going to add a pin. Well, you know what? I did like this pin position, so let's put pin 4 right here. Okay, that's cool. Well, it's still letting me add a pin. Let's put one back here. Pin number 5. Okay, let's use this bowl, even though that's not really a usable pin. Pin 6. Perfect. Maybe one in here. Pin 7. Yeah, I found out that you can add as many pins as you want right now, which is definitely a bug in the 2K23 game right now. Look at this. You can add as many pins as you want. It's game breaking. I can't believe it. It's just so funny to me that this has slipped through the cracks, and something must have gone on with that menu. But look at how many pins I'm adding. I mean, I don't even know how many pins I have left on the screen. This is just going to be hilarious, and it's going to be the perfect clickbait title. This will absolutely be in the thumbnail right here. This image of all the pins I have on this green. Hole number 17, filled with pins to the brim. So I've placed all these pins down now. Let's go in. I wonder what it does if you go in and you try to play test it. I'm a little worried. Hang on. Let me save this thing. Well, I don't want to save it with all the pins on. I guess we're just going to play. Oh, God. I'm a little nervous. I don't want to break the game. It does let me have 5. It says 5 here. Maybe you were allowed to have 5. Well, that's something new in the playtesting aspect of it. But it doesn't account for pins 6 through 1000, so who knows? Who knows what they were going for? But hey, PGA 2K Sports, your game's broken. We might need a little bit of a fix here, because I don't think this is quite what you were going for. Look at this. So I was going back through. I was just about to delete this, and it actually says what pin number it is. Pin 36. Pin 38. Pin 37. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So it actually numbers them in the game. It has the ability to number them. I was going to go back through and get going back on with the episode, but I mean, pin number 40, look at that. Oh boy. All right, well, let's get back into the episode here. Let me get all these pins out of here, and we'll start planting the rest of this course. Hang on a second. Okay. That actually took way longer than I care to admit to get rid of all those pins. That was really funny. But, all right, we are now going to focus on the planting here. We're going to make this hole look really good, and there's a lot of bare areas, and I think it's really, this left side being so bare is really hurting the look of this hole right now. So I think once we get all of this stuff in, I think this hole is going to look fantastic. A lot of this dune hill thing I've got going on here, it's a bit too steep, and I don't like that I can see all the way through over to this front tee box on 18. I'm going to go through, and this area is going to be blocking a lot of the sight line, and then a lot of around the green here. I think it just needs some plants around it to really make it feel like some of these areas that are kind of closer to the ocean like we've got right here. I think a lot of these little areas around the 17th green are just going to help this hole tremendously. Let's get going here, and let's start planting these areas around this dune side, this cliff side, whatever you want to call it, and let's get this hole looking the way that we really want it to look at the end of the day. And I think this hole is going to look great. So here we go. Let's do it. Well, I was definitely right about the left side of hole 17. Finishing that up, it was going to make the hole feel a lot more complete, and I'm really happy with where we've ended up here at the end of this episode today. We have finished hole number 17, and I think it looks great. I really like this sight line down towards the green. I think the tee shot looks fantastic. I think this view coming down from 16, as you can see even from the fairway, just having that finish, it makes it feel a lot more complete, and it's a really cool look, and these holes feel really connected when there's just no trees in between them. You can just see all the way down to the ocean from right here. I think that looks fantastic. There's one part of it that I'm not so sure about, though. It's this back area here. Something's missing over this green, and I haven't quite decided what it is. So I can't put my finger on it, but just feels something's out of place, and I don't quite know what it is. So if any of you in the comments know what it is, let me know, because I just can't seem to figure it out, but something's got to go back there. I'm just not sure what it is quite yet. But one of the things I really like is actually turning around. So if you're putting back up to one of these pins, looking back up this hill, I think this looks really cool. Going all the way back up to the tee, you can see some of the rock formations that I have up here, and it looks really, really nice. I was surprised at how this turned out. I was planting this area, but I was just trying to make it look decent. I wasn't really focused on making it look nice from the green, but then looking back up at this tee box, I think it has a really cool effect with being down on the water and then looking up, and you can see where the elevation is, where the cliffs are kind of jagged and they go around. So I love the way this turned out, and yeah, this is a really cool view of this hole too. It's almost better than the tee shot is looking back up the hill towards the 16th green. But as we go here, I'm backing out, and you can see that we are at 98% objects meter, which is a little disappointing. We are right on the nose 98%, because I placed the last object in this bush area over here, and it hit 98% on the dot. So we are basically at 98.0. It is really frustrating that they don't actually give you the 0.1 percentages like they did in 21. I don't know what the reason for that is, but yeah, we're right on the dot, 98%, so it seems very unlikely that we're going to be able to finish this 12th hole without having to take away some of the planting from some of these other areas on the golf course, and that's okay. I mean, once I saw that our object meter, when I ported this over, it went from 82 to 88%. Once I saw that, I knew I was going to have to take out areas anyway, so I just decided that I wanted this hole to look good, and I can find other areas, and that's kind of what I said with this last hole. We'll see how it goes. This is all a work in progress. I'm not 100% sure how it's going to turn out, but I just knew I didn't want to take it away from these holes, because I knew these are the most stunning holes in the property, in my opinion, and I think this hole deserved to have a full planting done to it. We'll take away planting elsewhere where maybe we don't need it, and maybe from some of the earlier planting, some of these holes have a ton of planting, a ton more planting than what they maybe need. So we'll find other ways to find the objects that we need to finish this course off right. So one thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to show you what this hole was supposed to look like, because I know I said in the beginning of the episode that the sun would really shine on this hole if it was back in 2K21. Let me take you back and let me show you exactly what it did look like, because I think it's pretty interesting. So let me change the weather settings here, and we'll see the light shining directly on this green. Now this is what the hole was kind of supposed to look like. Not 100% like this. I think it would honestly have looked better in 21 than it does right here. I think some of these trees just look really awkward, but with the sun coming right in, man, I just thought this hole looked so good into the sun, and just that lower lighting. Let me even go a little bit lower. Let me get down into, yeah, like 17. Look at that. I mean, just look at the shadows that casts, and you can really get a lot of definition from this hole, and the light reflecting off the water, even from here looking down at the 17. I mean, it's just a beautiful view, and that's the way it was supposed to look. But unfortunately, at this time of day, looking this way. I mean, the grass looks so bad, and even looking back up the hill, it just doesn't even feel real. It's really disappointing, to say the least, but this was the image I had for this hole. This is what it was supposed to look like, but unfortunately, we didn't get that with this course. So let me bring it back into the old weather. And yeah, you can just see it's a little bit more muted. The colors are a little bit darker, but the one good thing is this grass doesn't look totally horrible. It's some of the sacrifices that we had to make when we were building this, when we were porting this over, and unfortunately, the lighting took a major hit in this game, so we had to nix the lighting, but that's all right. I think the hole still looks really good. And another thing too is I have a couple edits left to do to this 18th tee box, but we're gonna worry about that once we understand exactly how much plant meter we have left, because I would like to do some of these side hill rocky areas on this tee box, but I don't know if that's going to be quite in the cards with the object meter, so we're going to figure that out when we come to the editing episodes. We're not going to worry about that right now, because we just finished up 17 and we got one more hole to do, and we'll take stock of where we're at after we finish hole number 12. But I wanted to finish this episode by playing the hole, so let's play it. Let's go to pin number 3. I don't remember which hole. I think it's the back right pin for this one. So we're going to play test this hole, and we'll just show it off a little bit. We'll see how it plays. It's down 28 feet, so it's pretty far downhill as well. And it's a relatively big green, like I said. It's not a small green for a short par 3, but I think it plays like a very small green because there are very narrow pockets and very small areas that you have to hit to, and they're not necessarily easy to hit to, especially to this front section. You can see how it runs away. This back section is pretty flat. It does slope a little bit to the right, but you definitely want to be playing this over here, letting that slope bring it in if you do block it out to the left a little bit. But if you do pull it, I'm saying this as a left-hander, if I block it out to the left, and if I pull it over to the right here, I have enough room, hopefully, that the ball is going to stay up on this green. So I'm going to hit, let's see, I'm just going to hit a half 9-iron, I think. Oh my gosh. That might be the best swing I've ever made in this game. Dead straight and a perfect. Whew. We will take that. Let's see if I can make a birdie for the first time ever on one of my holes in these episodes. And I really just like the way that this back area looks, that the swampy area. It's a little bit more overgrown than maybe the stuff on the exact coastline, this little inlet. But I still think it looks really good. I love the way that turned out. Oh, it broke right early. Oh, I just can't get a birdie in these episodes. Oh well. Hopefully we can get the par and get out of here. Yeah, there we go. So there you have it, folks. Hole number 17 is complete. We are 17 holes down, 1 hole to go. We have hole number 12 left, and I'm excited to finish this course up and see where we are at. But that's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think about this episode and the direction that we're going, and if you're a little worried about the object meter, as I most certainly am. So thanks again for watching, guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one.